were there a couple of other items you wanted to clear away first as well?
Yes, Madam Chair. Just Cranford Basin. Councillors will be aware that this council has been looking at the residual land, the high land around the edge of Cranford Basin, where there are 2 notices of requirement, a designation for the extension of the motorway and also for stormwater. I would request that there be a resolution to defer Cranford Basin and the consideration of that matter to stage 3, so that the matter can go to the UDSIC first to get some more consultation from our statutory partners. So that's a new resolution that needs to go up.
So that's not on there anywhere at the moment?
No, it's not.
Okay, so I move that that the Cranford Basin decision be deferred to stage 3.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes. We want that to go through to stage 3 to be considered.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just. I mean, I've moved it. Is there anyone happy to second it? This is so that the UDSIC can be engaged in a discussion about changing the UDS.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why it's being deferred to stage 3. So I've moved it. Paul Lonsdale has seconded it. So questions.
That is, if you could just explain the reason for that. I get all the people involved in that, the UDS, the partners, to what end, and would there potentially be any negative?
No, in fact it would be positive, and it was a request by Commissioner Skelton. You may recall that Cranford Basin itself lies outside the infrastructure line, which was originally called the Metropolitan Urban Limits. It is actually in the rural part of the city now, under the regional policy statement. So in order for us to zone it to an urban residential zone, that would mean a change to the regional policy statement. And because that statement is the jurisdiction of the regional council, and the UDS members are the ones who determined where that line went originally, then we would like to give them more opportunity to consider the matter before we put it through in our district plan.
And how long is that?
Well, stage 2 is to be notified on the 27th of June. Stage 3, I mean.
Stage 3. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions, Yanni?
Consult with anyone else. Why are we consulting particularly with the UDSIC?
Because they are statutory partners and we are required to undertake that consultation. It's discretionary in the Resource Management Act and the OIC whether we undertake consultation with any other parties. However, there are a number of statutory parties, and the UDS or the members of the UDS are statutory partners.
So under the OIC, we have to formally consult with them over everything in our district plan.
Yes.
So have we done that with the other stages?
Yes.
And
yes, because that's why we have the collaborative advisory group, and we've also sent the statutory partners are also the government, and that's why we've sent the chapters to them as well.
And what's the risk if we don't do what the Minister wants us to do on this one?
This isn't a ministerial request. This is a sensible request that's come through from Commissioner Skelton from Environment Canterbury, because the UDS currently restricts where we can have development, so it doesn't include Cranford Basin. If we can get the UDS partners to agree to this, it's just going to make it very easy to happen.
My understanding was from the Minister's comments that the Minister wanted us to treat Cranford Basin differently. Is that correct? How does the Minister in his comments want us to treat Cranford Basin?
Well, they are wanting us to be in alignment with the RPS, which currently excludes Cranford Basin.
Yeah, so now we want to talk to our statutory partners to make sure that if they all agree, then it's going to happen.
Which we have been doing on an officer level, but it hasn't been to the UDSIC, which is the implementation committee.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I will put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.
Now, Just a few more matters, Madam Chair, and then I'll go on to amendments to the recommendations. In front of you, you should all have a spiral-bound copy that is numbered on the bottom. If we could refer to this copy always when there are any questions, please, because it's numbered on the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
And then there is also a much smaller document that looks the same as the spiral-bound copy. And these are modifications to the larger table that officers have come up with since this table was released. And I would draw your attention to the back of it, which I'm sure we'll come to in due course, but just so that I point it out to you, at the very back of the smaller document, on page 11, there is a proposal that goes on for 2 or 3 pages regarding the property at Rickerton Racehorse that's been developed by Ngāi Tahu Property Limited. And just to let you know that we received this proposal yesterday afternoon and we agreed that we would table it in front of you. We can go through that in detail when we go through the comments that come to this.
This tiny little one. Yeah.
Page 11. So the small pages are some changes to the bigger document. And just at the back of it, I was pointing out that there's an attachment from Ngāi Tahu Property Limited. I'm just pointing out where it is for when we get to that matter on the table.
Doesn't mean that everyone will be able to read it.
No, well, we will go through that with you in detail because the pages before it actually refer to that.
Glasses.
So just some amendments, I'm sorry, to the recommendations before we carry on.
So, Bridget, are you looking at these recommendations when all my notes are, for example, on the minister's letter? Is that how you're going to do it?
Well, I was hoping to go through the recommendations because they would be in response to each item, but they respond to each item that's been raised.
That's correct.
So
the minister's letter is only a covering letter.
yeah,
It's the 93 recommendations that are found within the document attached to the minister's letter that are responded to in the spiral-bound copy.
yeah. But there are overarching
Yes,
comments
there
that
are.
are made in the letter that actually relate across the board
Yes.
to all of them. Yeah.
Just wonder if in terms of the process, Bridget, if you could tell us which parts are going to be responded to later and
Yes,
haven't been
I was just
responded
going
to
to
yet.
do
Sorry,
that
right.
now.
But
Thank you.
I'm a little confused as to how we're going to make sure that we are alert to these particular. Are we going to just alert to each of these as we go through the
Yes.
document? Right. Okay,
Yes.
that's fine. And the next question is what we can't deal with today.
Yes, and this relates to the recommendations. If we could bring up the recommendations, please. Under 6.3.
Go back to 6.3. Yep.
No, sorry, wrong one. Under 6.5, there are 2 copies of the designations. I think it sits in between Councillor Hanson and Manji on this side and Councillor Livingston and East on that side. Just of the designations, for your information, there is no decision you can make on those designations today except to include them in the notification. All decisions relating to designations are made by the Independent Hearings Panel, but they have to be notified, of course, for submissions.
Right.
So there's 2 copies of those each on your desks. In relation to that, under 6.5, we need to add the word in the first line it says there chapters, planning maps. Can we add the word designation and definitions? No, under 6.5.
Go back. Yep. Oh, yeah, you've done it. They've done it already.
It might be between Manji and Golf.
Is there a list of designations?
Yes, there is. It's there.
Then why can't we make any decision on this?
Because the process is set out in the order in council. It's a different process to under the RMA. The list of designations are only the council's designations, and you have actually signed off on these, or the relative committee has, for these council designations. There is no other decision for you to make except to include them in the plan to be notified.
Right.
And there is a list there.
So, for example, we wanted to designate some of our community facilities that we were going to, can we do that?
No, we've already said
No.
that. We've already.
In December, there
we
were
know that.
resolutions relating to that by another committee where they had to consider what designations they wanted to come through to the district plan.
Right.
So that word designations is in there, that's correct. I need to, I also need to include at the end of that recommendation in 6.5,
Yeah. Excluding open space, general procedure and rules, engine testing and residential stage 2.
that's correct, and that's
See,
because you
it's
don't...
prescient. I could just tell that that's what you were going to say.
Yes, that's perfect. The reason being is that those Section 32s haven't been to you yet, and you need to consider them before we can approve them with the chapters to be included. And my recommendation there is that we use next week's Wednesday's DPR subcommittee meeting, which is for 1 hour. Use that as the public meeting just to sign off those Section 32s.
Right.
The other matter that isn't with you is the coastal environment chapter. You haven't received that chapter or the Section 32. We will also bring that to you next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Yes. Oh, it will come out to you earlier than that.
No, but I thought that that one was going to come up on Friday week.
Coastal environment is different to stage 2 natural hazards,
Oh,
but they are interlinked.
yes, they are.
It can go through to stage 3. It will depend on discussions to be had during this week.
If it were to go to stage 3, then it would come on the Friday, would it?
On the 24th, the 25th, not this coming Friday, the following Friday is when we're bringing stage 3 chapters to you to sign off to go to the ministers, and that's natural hazards stage 2. We could include coastal environment in that.
Yeah, I'd rather
if you
that
like.
you did that, yeah.
Okay.
Because they are interrelated, and I don't think we should have a conversation about one without the other.
That's perfect.
Yep.
One of the reasons why we haven't put it up to you today.
Yep, good.
Go as stage 3.
Thank you.
And then we need one further recommendation.
We do need a resolution to cover that.
Yes, we do actually. Thank you.
Or can we go back down to
Cranford Basin
defer
one.
the Cranford Basin? Can we put have another resolution saying
Defer the Cranford Basin and coastal environment
and
chapter.
coastal environment chapter until stage 3? Yeah.
Yes, thank
So
you.
Did the mover and seconder of that? I mean, I moved it and seconded it. I'm comfortable with that. Yeah. So that's just to get them together with the natural hazards chapter. It makes good sense to me. So if people are comfortable with that, I'll just deem that all carried. Good.
Thank
That
you.
was a good process. Thank you.
And the other recommendation that I need to put in, which may change when we go through the comments, there needs to be a new 6.6. So before the recommendation on the Littleton Port, there should be another recommendation that approves the changes to the modified list of responses on ministers' comments tabled at the meeting.
Approve the changes to the modified responses to the minister's comments.
Approve the modified changes.
Sorry.
That's the
Approve.
small.
Approve what? Wouldn't you just say approve the changes?
Oh, if you like. Yeah.
I just don't know what modified changes are.
Oh, it's just the title on the
Oh.
actual table. That's all.
Oh, I see.
As tabled at the meeting. That's correct.
Oh, I see. Okay, right.
So,
That's the name of the document.
with that, Madam
Right.
Chair, thank you. I think I've covered off everything I need to say. Just a short introduction, I guess, to the report. You'll all be aware that the 17 proposals went to the ministers at the end of March. You all approved them to go to the ministers at that time with the draft Section 32s. On the 23rd of of March, we received back the Minister's comments. There were 93 odd comments from the Minister. They are included in attachment 1 to your report. Therefore, the very first recommendation is to receive those comments and to have particular regard to them. Attachment 2 then has the draft officer recommendations in response to each of those Minister's comments. And then once we've gone through each of these and received your comments on it, we will amend the Section 32s accordingly before they are notified.
Yep.
In terms of the process,
I've got about 8 areas where I'm not keen to accept the Minister's modified comments nor have regard to what he's saying. And I'm not sure what the process is.
Well, that's what I want to discuss now.
Yeah.
So, which is how we, manage a, substantial document of 100 and odd pages. So, my view is that we should identify what those kind of exceptional issues are, so that we can allow time for proper debate and consideration of those. I suspect that there are a significant number of these where simply the ministers have made a recommendation, the officers are recommending that we adopt that recommendation, and it doesn't seem to me that there's any particular issue with those. So I think if we can identify the issues that require us to devote our attention to, then I think we can literally sign off the rest. So there'll be probably 4 different categories. So in some of them, it's just simply that they're minor or process related, and the officers have accepted the minister's comments. There'll be some where officers have rejected the minister's comments, and we should just double check that we're comfortable with that. And there are ones that the officers have accepted the minister's comments, and councillors need to see whether they're comfortable with that. But I think that on that large number of ones that we can literally sign them off on block, and then focus our attention as a council on the issues that we want to debate. And I thought that we would just begin by highlighting what those issues were, and I'm sure that you've gone to the earthworks page, as I have, and the Homestar 6 page, and I think that we're going to find that we're in agreement about the issues that we'd like to debate, because I think what is going to happen is that there will be some aspects of the Minister's advice which we in conscience can't accept, and we recognise that places staff in a difficult position because they are there to give evidence, not to promote the interests of the council. But we've heard from our constituents. We know what they are concerned about, and they are concerned, for example, about having our groundwater exposed at several points, with quarrying into the groundwater itself. I think that the rules that allowed for that to happen on a pretty restricted basis in the past never envisaged multiple sites. So, we've raised this with ECAN ourselves, and they have encouraged us to take a stronger position. So we feel that we're on good ground to argue this, but we know that we have to protect our officers from the criticism that they are trying to make the environment more restrictive for quarrying. Actually, the councillors are wanting to protect the groundwater that our city is so utterly dependent on, and we want to put up a case for stronger rules in that regard. So that's going to be sort of one of the issues. So I think it might be easier if we just identify what the issues are, and then perhaps, because we're going to have to take an adjournment because we've got a meeting at 11:30. So I'm just wondering whether we could identify those issues, and then you could identify which ones of these in the document they relate to, and
Yes.
then we could identify an order of play
Yes.
for the afternoon session.
So, what time are you starting in the afternoon?
I'm going to look at my diary in a minute. Okay.
I'm just aware that there's 12:30 to 2:30 and for housing for all the housing providers, so that a number of us need to be at there. But could I just raise 3 or 4 other things?
Yep.
Okay, so the SAMs may be okay. Very hard to tell reading between the ministers there to them.
I can point you to where they are.
Right, okay, so I've got queries about the SAMs. The Homestar 6-star thing that Mr Brown thinks is, or whoever thinks is unnecessary, is there actually a requirement we discover in Auckland of the Auckland plan?
When you say the Homestar rules, is that in relation to industrial, commercial or residential?
Residential, we've got them in both, and actually both, but he seems more offended by the residential ones. And then I've got smaller questions about the Aotea, Wigram, Hallsville West one, and the Rickerton Racecourse development, just in terms of aspects of it, not that it goes here. These are just the subject matters.
These are the subject matters. So these are the subject matters that you want to debate.
Just overall, because we review the attachment 1 and attachment 2. If the minister's recommendation is 93 only, but why we respond to the minister's recommendation for 153? There is the 60, the difference, the gap.
Because there are general overarching comments, there are 10 of them in the very beginning of the document, and some of the chapter leaders have had to respond to those as well. So there are 93 specific comments, and then there are other more overarching comments relating to the statement of expectations that they've also answered in certain cases.
Are there any? So we've identified the Homestar, the SAMs, the quarries.
And then I've just got 4 specific ones which are ward-related: Aotea, Wigram, Hallsville West, and Rickerton Racecourse.
Aotea,
Aotea,
yep,
Wigram,
Wigram,
because he's got pre-Aston military base there again. Hallsville West and Rickerton Racecourse.
right. Yanni?
Mail site, the character areas which have already been identified. I want to hear from staff over the reduction in notification requirements in a general sense. Just get a feel for how much they're recommending reducing the community's right to be notified. And also, I think one was around water setbacks, for example, which concerned me. I also want to get a sense of what they're doing in the rural area. I found it quite hard to understand where we were going with that. I wanted to get an understanding of particularly around what's being done as part of phase 1, and now seems like the minister's having another crack at this through phase 2. I'm also interested in any areas where the height and the scale of development is being increased significantly. I think I read somewhere that they did want us to remove height limits and scale restrictions. The other one, I was really wanting some more information around the use of residential areas for non-residential purposes, and particularly wanted to have a bit of an understanding over some of the designations in the open space metropolitan zones. For example, if we're going to be adding things in here, I'd rather do it for the Yaldhurst Academy, although I know you've said that should go through the UDIC as well. But if we're going to make changes for the minister, then I think we should make changes for what we want as well. So,
Just the Granford Basin is not a change for the minister as such. It's just something that this council was proposing.
yeah, no, I understand that, but it's where the minister have kind of asked us to have things like open space zones and recreation zones, and whether, just what's happening there.
Sorry, where was this?
Page 55.
55.
Sorry, there's 2 page numbers, so it's page 66 of our agenda, page 55 of the government's.
Of the spiral bound.
Yeah. And then in some sense it would be good to have an understanding around what's happening with the statement of expectations.
Sorry, what do you mean with regard to
Well,
that?
there's a number of general things that, like we're being asked to do. Like if you turn to page 4, align the strategic direction objective contained in the hearings panel decision, respond to the guidance offered by the hearings panel, reduce the unnecessary regulation and increase the use of non-regulatory methods. So perhaps someone could tell me what increase of use of non-regulatory methods we're
Sorry,
doing.
which page are you reading
Page
from?
4.
Page
Or
4 of the
15,
spiral bound.
15 of our agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the highlighted box. I'm also just really keen to understand in terms of consenting for earthworks around contaminated land and land remediation, and whether or not there's any legacy issues, given that, given if we're reducing consenting requirements, how we can ensure that things are being fixed properly.
So have we now identified all of the issues that we need to discuss? Yep.
I'd just like some comment on the hospital's part in terms of their recommendations, 339 and 340. And
Which page is that, sorry?
Sorry,
it's best to refer to the...
Yes, please.
I haven't found it, so...
Oh, well,
just in
what
their
page
agenda-
is it in here then?
In the agenda, is on page 64. So it was the Minister's recommendations, 339 and 340.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted some discussion about that.
So we really need to understand that the officers have gone through these, they've given reasons for their recommendation, and then we're being asked whether we agree with that position. Yeah. So just raising that without, do you not agree with the officer's recommendation?
I've had a look at it. I've skim read it like everything in the document, and I just wanted some discussion about it for clarity for me, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think so. It's a process issue in it, but
I think this document is the key, and
we've just received that though, obviously.
No, it's the same document that's been with you for 2 weeks.
Exactly the same document that's in your agenda.
It's just got
page numbers on it to make it easier to traverse. So.
I can find those things in here though.
Okay.
Agree with the Minister on, and it's the Kintyre estate at the back of the Noble subdivision. He talks about alternative transport out so that it's not landlocked.
Okay.
Specifically relevant to education, just understanding what's happening with the education facilities from page 73 or 62 of the government submission, understanding about what changes are being done to signage and visual pollution, and whether we're being more enabling. And the other one was just around utilities as well. So there's quite a comment around utilities.
There are numbers of recommendations to those. Perhaps we can, at that time, we will just need to go to the pages that cover those particular issues, and if you want to pick out particular recommendations, or else we'll have to go through them all in relation to the chapter.
In some respects, that it probably wasn't as narrow as I thought it would be. So it may be that we just have to go through the draft table page by page. But what I'm worried about is that we'll end up having no time to really debate the issues of substance. And that's why I wanted to identify what those big issues were at the outset. We all know the groundwater is one of them, the SAMs, the Homestar, those sort of things, they're part of it as well.
And nearly all of the recommendations in relation to residential are critical for you to understand and be aware of.
Okay.
The other one that's in that first one is the impact on public notification of the changes, the one that
Raised. If there's none, then that's fine.
You mean notification changes?
Rule notification changes. Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew.
The only one that I've got here additional to what's been suggested already is recommendation 90 on page 96, and just some further explanation and discussion around the changes in red provides for limited growth and change to residential settlements in Banks Peninsula, just to form a view on that with some further information.
Sure.
All right, so now, in terms of this afternoon, we have some issues around timetabling, because this meeting was scheduled, other meetings were scheduled at the same time. So how many councillors do we lose at 12:30? 12:30. Okay, so and that I've got a meeting from 2:30 to 3:30.
There are also some hours set aside for tomorrow for this if they're needed,
Yeah.
because tomorrow's your normal DPR committee time, so at the normal time, 9 till...
4 of us have got CCHL.
Yeah, I know. It is a really bad time.
would it be sensible if we came back at, say, 1:30?
Or what time can you do? 1 o'clock, say, and then
I can do it from 12:30.
12:30.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've got to do this housing thing, but why don't I join you for the? I mean, you'll have the same views on the quarries.
If we can get the perhaps if I could ask you to just put forward perhaps on this document the list of all of the ones that are just the minor ones that, you know, because I want to remind people that this process is partway down a track, and there are very limited things that we can do at this stage. So all we are doing are receiving the minister's comments, and we can only make changes that are in line with those comments if we make changes.
Yes.
So we don't have the ability to open up to other issues or be expansive around, you know, the broader issues around the DPR. That's what we're obliged to do. So that's the process that we're going to go through. So, okay, well, let's come back here at 12:30. If you could get the list of all of the ones that are literally the minor tidy-ups that have been proposed, that staff agree with, that ministers proposed, that you can't see any fishhooks with, if you could just identify those, I think we could vote on them en bloc, then we could go through the other remaining issues.
5 that we've got. We've got 4 big ones, haven't we?
There are a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Do you want me to just give you the numbers, or...?
Well, if we're going to do it page by page,
Right.
well, we could do it page by page. We'll do it page by page. But if you could have that ready so that you can identify where there is an issue, and we'll park it.
Okay.
So that we'll, at the end of the first hour, basically, we will have the list of all of the issues that we're going to debate.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I'll be back here by
yeah,
2, is it
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Or
All right.
earlier if I can. Yeah.
So we'll come back here at 12:30, or shall we, or a bit later, 1 o'clock? Oh, 12:30, okay.